Welcome in to the Unblocked Podcast Network. It is Unblocked Friday here. I'm Keith with Brian, Coach, and our very special guest, Jay Flannery. So, everyone say hello.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Right.
Absolutely. So, we're going to get into all the good football talk later, but we're really privileged to have Jay with us today, and we want to get chatting with him right away. So, I'm going to toss it over to Brian. And, Brian, why don't you get this going?
I read the great book by John U. Bacon about the role somebody called the Beav had in Jim Harbaugh coming back to Ann Arbor. And as a kid, obviously, I was a big fan of Michigan, and it never really left me. Being a kid from Ohio, I'd come home with a black eye sometimes, and Dad would just say, Ohio State, and I'd just nod my head. But, the other guy always looked worse, Jay, so you'll appreciate that. But whenever I finally was able to take my family up, Maddie and my ex-wife up to Ann Arbor, I said, I've got to meet Jay. And unfortunately, that day I was wearing a Baltimore Ravens sweatshirt. And Jay came out and he told me not to order food and walked away. And I looked at my ex-wife and I was like, you think he's serious? And she said, I'm not ordering anything. But Jay welcomed my daughter, Maddie. She was in a number 4 jersey that I shared on Facebook. I'll share it on Twitter later. And did 2 photos with Maddie. And Maddie was just over the moon because she had met somebody that was so close to Tom Brady. She had no idea your role in the Jim Harbaugh bringing him back. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jay?
You mean the Coach Harbaugh thing?
Yeah.
So basically, I live and work in town. I worked for the team in the 90s for Coach Moeller and Coach Carr from May of 93 to August of 99. And I moved back in 02. And, when Coach Carr was here, I was still around, helped him out a little bit. Always been around the program. And after the transition from when Coach Carr retiring, the program obviously went the wrong way. I didn't know Coach Rodriguez really well. He inherited difficult circumstances. A lot of our players graduated. He didn't have a lot of support, had people undermining him. Administration was kind of frilly and cheap. Then Coach Hoke came in, who I know very well, love the man. I think he's great. And he was the D-line coach when I was here for a lot of the years, and he's a great guy. But his teams kind of bottomed out and were going the other way, and the whole city and university was suffering. So I was contacted by a couple people to try to help to get the next coach. And when this all started, my target was Les Miles. And he was, I believe he was at LSU at the time. And he had really good teams, and he was competing for a national championship. And I kept hearing, hey, Harbaugh might want to leave and come. And I got contacted by Todd Anson and a couple other people, John Gindia. This is all in the book. And we started organizing and getting things together. And I mentioned to John and Todd, hey, we should do something like the Captain's Council. Like me calling Jim Harbaugh isn't going to do a lot. He doesn't know who the hell I am, and most of you don't anyways, but that's irrelevant. But we have to have big, high-level people call him and let him know that he's wanted back in value because he's having a tough time with the 49ers. He and Jed York weren't getting along. It was a bad situation. So we started to have captains calling, John Jansen, Jared Irons, guys like that. Those are the guys I was with. Anthony Carter calling them, different people. Jamie Morris, Jumbo Elliott, guys like that. And Todd Anson and Gindia said to me, hey, we need a closer. And I go, I think I'm going to have Tommy call him. Not Tommy's Tom Brady. And a couple things happened. One weekend I was going to have him do it, and the Patriots lost, so that was out. Won the next week in San Diego, big game, national TV. And I messaged Tom after the game, like I do all the time, and I said, Tommy, hey, could you do me a favor? We're trying to call Jim Harbaugh to get him to come here. Bring him back. And literally 30 seconds later, Tommy messages me back, Beav, Coach Harbaugh is exactly what we need. So like 3 days later, I'm reading, I think it was in the newspaper, that Tommy called and talked to Harbaugh for 2 hours. And he messaged me later and he said, we got him. He's coming. And I thought, he's full of, it's Tom. I tell people this all the time. What's it like being friends with Tom Brady and how he is? Well, this is all you need to know about Tom Brady. And this is how he does so many incredible, amazing things he does. He believes if Tom was the captain of the Titanic wouldn't have sunk. That's just the way he is. And so a lot of things happen, trending up, and we end up getting Coach Harbaugh, and then John U. Bacon, who, of course, grew up with the Harbaughs, writes the book. And I've been on a whirlwind tour since then, and right around the same time Deflategate happened, and I was heavily involved in that. So I'm known as the Tom guy, which is pretty cool because Tom's awesome and he's a dear friend of mine. I love him like a brother. But a lot of things happening at once kind of made me a guy to know type of thing.
And lastly, before I turn it over to Coach, I'm so happy to call you a friend, and there's so many reasons why. You're one of the few people that I say I have to see whenever I come to Ann Arbor.
Get out more often, Brian.
No matter what I have to do.
Often, it's okay.
Well, two things that I'm going to surprise you with is your charity. Let's talk about Chad Tuff a little bit.
You're going to try to make me cry now? Yeah, so
No.
My first roommate in Michigan was Jason Carr, Lloyd Carr's son. He was a quarterback, and the whole Tom Brady thing, that's how I became so tight with Tom in 95, because Tommy came here. 8-up, lost, California kid, 7th-string quarterback, literally came to Ann Arbor from San Francisco, San Mateo area with no winter coat. Big John Falk gave him a U of M coat, which is a great story. And that's how I became friends with Tommy. But Jason and I were always close. He married Tammy, one of his college girlfriends, and they had 3 boys. And Chad was the youngest, and he was having problems at home, falling down. And Tammy took him to the hospital, and they did a bunch of tests, and they found out he had a very serious brain tumor condition known as DIPG. At the time, the thing that was the most disheartening about this, it wasn't really a high-profile cancer. So how usually cancers and diseases work, the more people get them, the more research dollars they get, because for obvious reasons, hey, lung cancer, that's been around because of smoking and so forth, so they get hundreds of millions of dollars towards it. While DIPG didn't have a face or a name behind it. And the Carrs, through their power of their family name and Michigan football and U of M and all the other University Hospital and everything, we got involved. Unfortunately, we couldn't save Chad. He died, unfortunately, pretty quick. He didn't see his 5th birthday. And I created the Chad Tuff Foundation that Tammy and Jason run with a lot of help from some other people. And we do fundraising every year for that. So that's a cool thing. Anything you can do, I think it's just Chad Tuff. Just Google it. It's everywhere. And we just did a fundraiser, had the race, which Joe Marinaro, my high school teammate and best buddy, he's Chad's godfather. He ran in the race. He runs almost every year. He was the captain of Lloyd's first team in 95. My personal bodyguard, I basically wouldn't be alive without Joe. He got me through my senior year at high school. And is a huge reason why I got to Michigan. And he's also a huge reason Tom Brady stayed here, because Tom was homesick with 2 other guys from the 97 team. And Joe worked with those guys and kept them here. And I kind of took over when Joe left. I had no idea why Joe was calling me to go see Tom and the other guys, but I did it a couple times, and Joe was keeping those guys here, and he always keeps me in line. He's a yin and a yang. He never talks. I never shut up.
That's something, Jay, that we talk about. Yeah. Obviously, Mike Godfrey's team focus is a big reason why we're even here. I should probably hide Brian Hartline from you, but that's John Harbaugh at the bottom, and we lost Board of Education.
He's a good football coach. I mean, Woody Hayes is a good coach.
We lost Greg Krantz over the summer, and it's going to be a big loss for Team Focus and Mike Godfrey's organization. But lastly, and if you want to talk about this, you can, or else I can talk about it. Larry the Bear Proud.
Okay. Larry has spina bifida.
Okay.
He's 20 years
Larry
old.
has spina bifida. He's 20 years old. And I think he has had, last I read, it's an amazing number of surgeries. And I was looking it up, and I don't have it, but
you're
going to talk about somebody that's
figures. He's probably
inspiring.
around 120.
Go follow Larry Prout.
Yeah. So that's what we're about.
Yeah.
Is faith,
So,
family, fellowship.
and that's what we're about is faith, family, fellowship. I'm happy to call you a friend, Jay. And I texted you about doing this show, and within 30 minutes, you were like, "How can I help?" And that's what I appreciate about your friendship.
Hey,
But
Brian,
I'm going to turn it over to
you
Coach while I try and fix
you're
this
Mike
echo.
Godfrey's guy. You're his son, and you know what your dad. You know what your dad's claim to fame is with me, right?
Nephew.
He's my second. I mean, sorry, your uncle.
Well, Mike's
See,
my uncle.
I just broke news on the air. He's not your dad. He's your uncle. There you go. I'm here to see Coach is excited. But here's the thing. I hope Mike sees this because he's my second favorite Moorhead State football player of all time. Guess who number one is?
Behind Phil Sims?
Behind Phil Sims?
The great Phil Sims. Get it right. 22 for 25 in the Super Bowl. I love Phil Sims.
The great Phil Sims actually trashed every record Mike had except for 7 interceptions in a game. And I'll get into that story later when Mike was coaching Alex Van Pelt at Pittsburgh. He said, "Coach, I don't have it." And Mike said, "You're staying in. You got a chance to break my record."
That's pretty funny.
7 interceptions. So go ahead, Coach.
All right, very good, and great stuff there, guys. You know, Jay, we've got a common friend who just passed away, and Buddy Teevan. And I'll get into my stuff about Buddy in a minute. Tell me about your relationship with Buddy and where how that started.
I played. I grew up in Andover, Mass. Went to Andover High School, and Dick Collins is our legendary Hall of Fame coach, one of the greatest high school coaches in America. He's a Dartmouth guy. He played against this guy you might have heard of named Joe Paterno.
Okay.
He might have intercepted Joe Paterno a couple of times during the game once.
Right.
They're urban legends. So Buddy was the coach of Dartmouth when I was in high school. And I used to go to his camps, and a bunch of our players were recruited by him. And he was a big deal. Now, he left and went to Illinois and Florida and then Tulane. You probably know him from Tulane.
Right.
Just a great guy. Whoever the good guy coach in the sport is, like Mac Brown's a really good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Carr was a great guy. Just the good guy coach. Dick Vermeil. You know, that's what Buddy Teevens was. But the bigger thing he did with all this talk about player safety, he worked with some of the computer nerds at Dartmouth, and he developed contactless practices where they never tackled each other. They had computer dummies, like crash test dummies that they did. And he invented that. And, unfortunately, I kept tabs on Coach, and we talked a lot. He had a really bad car accident. He was riding a bike, I believe. He got hit by a car down in Florida. They moved him up to Boston. I think he was at Spalding.
Exactly.
It's the military rehab hospital where a lot of the people from the Boston Marathon attack went. Those idiots tried to blow up the Boston Marathon on Patriots Day about 10 years ago. And Coach, he just succumbed to his injuries. He lost his leg. I had no idea how sick he was. But the fact that he wasn't coaching in the Ivy League season, because a lot of these Ivy League coaches stay there forever. And he was big. I think he won like 7 championships at Dartmouth. He was a great player there. He was a great quarterback. Just a great guy. Huge loss for football. And coincidentally, Brian, he was the head coach of Stanford before Jim, Coach Harbaugh. So just a great guy. He's in this industry to have very few people say any bad things about you. That's a huge deal. Just a really, really good man. A huge loss for the Ivy League, and New England football. Just a great guy. I mean, it's a very sad day.
Well, I'll throw my buddy Teevan's stories in there real quick. Buddy was the head coach at Tulane and was doing a speed camp, a clinic and speed camp in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area. Some boosters had brought him down. He had advertised it and all that. And it's summer of like 96.
He went to Florida with Ron
and maybe even 98, right along in there. And it's before, right? He did that after he got fired at Tulane. And so I go to the clinic and get there, and I'm the only coach that showed up, and one kid, a middle school kid, shows up. That's it. That's all that's there. So I figure, this guy's going to cancel this and go to the house. No, that guy clinicked me and speed worked that kid for 4 hours.
There's a million stories like that.
As if there were hundreds of us there. And so me and him, so I helped him run the drills and all that with the kid, and we just spent all this time together. So he finishes up and says, we've got a football camp going on over in Hammond, Louisiana, called the Manning Academy, that just finished its first year. And if we get our numbers up higher, would you be interested in coaching it? Because he found out that I've been a college quarterback and coached quarterbacks my whole life, and I said absolutely. And then back, I don't know, 6 weeks later, I get a phone call out of nowhere. Everybody says, hey, our numbers have gotten so big, we need you. Can you be here tomorrow? Yes, sir. And I go that next day. I worked the Manning Academy for 10 years. Got to see Buddy every year, spend time with him. He actually one year let me bring both of my boys and let them stay in the dorm with me and hang out with me. I'm going to show you this picture real quick.
Here's my story.
Some of those guys.
Story. Okay, so here, Coach, here's my story.
That's Fred Riley, his boys, and Archie Manning and his. I was
the recruiting host for Peyton when he came to Michigan. I was one of them. Apparently, I didn't do a very good job, but so.
Fantastic. Buddy then went to Florida, and during that time to be the offensive coordinator, allowed me to come stay. He and his wife spent 3 days at their house when I went to learn what Florida was doing, how Spurrier did things. Was so wonderful. I mean, just
all New England guys can coach. All New England
Buddy
guys
could operate on 4 hours sleep, and he thought anybody that slept more than 4 hours, anybody that slept more than 4 hours is lazy.
Wink.
And
that's what Ron Zook used to call you, weak if you slept more than 4 hours. And Ron Zook's a Mike Gottfried guy. That's where he got his start at Youngstown State as a player.
But Buddy was
he's 66 years old.
Buddy was
he started so young, Coach. That was the thing. He started
person,
so young,
as you said. I mean, and well, again, I don't know how old he was when he was head coach at Stanford, but he had to be very, very young.
I think he was like 45 when he was the coach at Stanford.
He was so smart, so sharp, so analytical. I mean, that's probably right. But just great. I want to tell you one story about him and Spurrier. He got to go in and coach in the bowl game with Spurrier that year, but he really did. He was just he'd just been hired to become the offensive coordinator under Spurrier.
Team?
We know who the coordinator was at Florida. It was Spurrier.
Okay.
And so he's on the headphones in the bowl game. That I don't know. And but he's on the phones, and Coach Spurrier calls a play. And Buddy, being analytical, by the book, everything has got to be just so. Starts yelling at the guys running. That play's not on the sheet. That play's not on the sheet. What does he just call? And the guy next to him said, "Just take a deep breath and watch this." And touchdown Gators. I mean, he said Spurrier sees things that none of the rest of us see. And every now and then he's going to go off script. Just roll with it. You got to be a little less puckered here than maybe you normally are. And so he said it was a great learning experience for him to lighten up a little bit. Everything ain't got to be quite so to be successful. There's just different ways to skin the cat. So he was still learning even at that time. He's a great guy. Great guy.
Coach, were you done? Do you want to flip it to Keith?
I will say I knew when I was a running back coach at Miami of Ohio under Tim Rose his last year. And when Shimmy was an equipment manager.
Yeah.
On that team. Shimmy ain't gonna remember me. I wasn't there for like 4 months, but yeah, I still remember his family coming in and helping him unload and
worked at the Cradle Coaches
before the season started. But I wasn't there very long. I worked at the Cradle
You know
of
the
Coaches.
Aaron
Got to meet
Parsegian
Aaron
stat?
Parsegian. Got to meet Weave
Aaron
Eubank. I
Parsegian
spoke at the
stat.
Oxford Redskin
Never
Club,
had a
and Weave
punt
Eubank
blocked.
sat on the.
Never had a team have his team's never had a punt blocked.
Not the one. But that's pretty good. You know,
Yes.
Coach Parsegian found out I was from Alabama and sits down with me and starts talking to me about Alabama Notre Dame games. I mean, well, I'm in heaven. I mean, you know, I'm sitting there listening to Alabama Notre Dame games from the guy that coached in them. And again, I'm sorry, but I grew up a New York Jet fan because of Joe Namath, Richard Todd.
Think about that.
And so I got to
The
visit
team
with
that
Weave
won the Super Bowl
Eubank.
for the Jets. You know,
How
like their
cool is
D-line
that?
coach was?
And just a
Buddy Ryan.
no. I was 8 years old. Buddy Ryan. There you go.
Know the name.
Well, Miami was, and my funny story about Miami. I don't know if you knew Tim Rose. Tim was a different cat. Rode a motorcycle to work every day with no helmet on. Big hog. We get fired, and Tim calls me in and says, Freddie, and he always called me Freddie. I don't know why. Freddie, I'm supposed to speak at the Dayton, Ohio club tonight, and my blankety blank ain't going. I've been fired. I ain't going up there and talking to them people. I need you to go for me. Take the school car. They're going to write you a check for like $500. I don't give a crap what you say. Just go up there and get this handled for me. Yes, sir. I get in my car, get in the school car, drive to Dayton, Ohio, walk in there. They're expecting Tim Rose. It's me. I'll walk up and say, Coach Rose has been fired. He sent me up here. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'll be the first assistant coach fired when the new staff comes in. I'm from whatever. What do you want to know? And I, we told they wanted to talk Alabama stuff and Bear Bryant stuff. So I told stories about Alabama for 15 or 20 minutes with the Dayton Redskin club,
the best coach
got in
ever.
the car and drove home. So that wrapped up my Miami career.
Sure.
In his time, Nick Saban probably is at this time. It's hard to compare to me.
Different offenses he ran.
It really is. In his time, Coach Bryant, especially going through, obviously going to Texas and putting in the wishbone in the middle of the summer and not letting anybody know about it.
The whole Sam Ben
bringing in the
African
American player to the University of Alabama. That transition doesn't happen. That's right.
Isn't that crazy?
Exactly. Sam Cunningham did more for racial reconciliation in Alabama than anybody that's ever lived.
So that's what's the great thing about sports, though, is the people.
Well, that was the thing that Bear knew.
How, as a country, we're so divided.
Racism is
sports bring people
losing
together.
is worse than racism to these people. So they would rather win with black players than lose with white players. So if you show them you're going to lose to a team that has mixed teams, you're going to win.
No question. Sure. And sad to say, at that time, as long as it was not too many, you got to have, it's
like an NBA team. Everybody's going to have a couple white guys on it,
Just enough to, go, and then you go to, then you go undefeated. Yeah. Then you go, that's right. Then you go to the national or the Orange Bowl and get mauled by Nebraska and realize maybe you ain't got quite enough. And also you ain't lifting weights as good as those people are lifting weights. We got to do something. And that game brought weightlifting into the state of Alabama.
The Boyd Epley guy for Tom
starting
Osborne.
to lift weights and put weights. It was Nebraska beating Alabama. Alabama coming back from out there visiting and going, sorry. Boyd Epley.
Robbie Hall, my man Keith.
So yeah.
I'm here. All right.
Oh, I don't know about that, though. I think the 49ers
question
screwed up.
for you. You look at
whatever.
You got Harbaugh to Michigan.
Yep.
Now, trust me, there's nothing more you were part of that nonetheless, and Brian brought up a point with the Detroit Lions, and Coach and I even discussed this back, is when you get that right coach in the room. And one thing that reminded me of this is when you were talking to Tom, and he said, Jim Harbaugh is the man we need at Michigan. Like, I know Michigan needed a couple years to get
Big
back
name
to where
brands,
they are.
like the NBA with the Celtics and
life
the
is
Lakers.
better, I always say, when you've got Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas, Michigan. You got these big boys all playing good football. Exactly. And, it took Michigan a little while to get there, but you look at what's happened in Detroit with the Lions recently, where you just get the right personality in that room. And how much of an effect did Harbaugh have on that? Even though it took him a couple of years, and, he still kind of seems like he's feeling around the NFL little by little, but, how the players, the staff, the university, it just seems they all welcomed him back and said, you just take care of this,
is completely different
and we'll get back.
than the NFL game. And you just look at the quarterbacks who are great in college and struggling in the NFL. Justin Fields with your Blackhawks Bears. So I think Coach had to go with an adjustment period.
I know that.
A lot of change with his staff. Had some good teams, and the COVID year happened. And then I think he really made some changes. The 20 season was important for us, even though we had a bad year. But Cade McNamara kind of came in and changed the team. And Aiden Hutchinson was starting to take off, and he got hurt. And then when COVID happened, you had guys getting 5th and 6th years. We built the foundation with our offensive line. I mean, we have, Zach Zenter and Trevor Keegan who started together for 3 years. We've had 3 different centers. Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson have played a lot. Mike Sanistrel's changed sides of ball. Mike Barrett's played 6 years. A lot of different guys. But then you add in NIL and the transfer portal. Then Jim does the big thing finally. We get an elite talent, big 5-star QB in J.J. McCarthy, who more importantly is a 5-star personality, which you need. I think it's a big deal. You need to have the man, the big-time personality coming in, because he's great with kids. He's great with the fans. He's a big person. Cade was the guy who got you there to the spot to set you up to get J.J. McCarthy. Nothing ever happens fast. Rome wasn't built in a day. Rome was destroyed in a day. It wasn't built in a day. And you have to develop. Like, think about, you mentioned Alabama, Coach. They went from Greg McElroy and those type of guys to Tua, to Mac Jones, to Jalen Hurts. They went to more offensively talented skill guys than the game manager type, Phil Simms type guys, because they were getting beat by Trevor Lawrence and those type of guys. So Jim had to learn that. And we ran into that great Georgia team with the 37 NFL players and all the Jordan Davis and friends. So I think that was a foundational change, but I think Jim has adapted and changed his style, and he hasn't been afraid to do that. You would think maybe Cade McNamara was Alex Smith, and Colin Kaepernick might be JJ, or the other one, Alex Smith and Pat Mahomes. So you got to go to a different level. It's not that Cade's not really good; he is. Just that JJ is a special talent. He can do things that Cade can't do. Now,
and Michigan fans taking him apart is wrong.
You're talking about JJ or Cade or
Cade.
And
that's
Michigan fans taking him apart is wrong.
Idiots
on so many levels.
Booed Tom Brady out of the stadium during the Syracuse game in 1998.
Cade.
First of all, here's a rule: don't boo
Michigan
college
fans.
Okay, college players, and they're getting paid now. Guys, idiots! They were always getting paid. They had college scholarships. Every one of these guys thinks that because they're good at Madden or they're good in gym class, they can do what JJ did and Cade did and Tom Brady did and Drew Henson. You can't. Listen, if you could, I'd still be doing it. It's very hard what they do. Cade McNamara got you to the Final Four in college football. Okay? I never thought he was going to play. Because remember, it's Dylan McCaffrey, Joe Milton, JJ was coming. He was a great player. He's gonna do great things with Iowa. They had a rough patch last weekend, but they'll come back. Cade's a great kid, great leader, great quarterback. Doesn't change. It's just that JJ is a better fit for what we're currently doing and trying to do. And it's the reality of the world. You know, Joe Montana got traded. Tom Brady had to leave. You know, the John Elways, Jim Kellys, and Dan Marinos don't happen very often.
What? Okay, Jay, I think one thing that Keith wanted to ask too about was the Lions culture right now.
Oh, listen. No, two words. Dan Campbell.
Okay, Jay, I think one thing that Keith wanted to ask too about was the Lions culture.
One of the things, the funny thing with the Ryan Day Notre Dame game the other night where he lost his mind after the game and went on his rant, that was embarrassing because that's not how Ryan Day is. If Dan Campbell does that, that's Dan Campbell. This guy talked about eating people's kneecaps on his first press conference, but that's how he is.
Yeah.
That's how he is. So when Dan talks it and sells it, and they built the team the right way, inside out. They got D linemen, they got offensive linemen, they're adding parts. They just hit in their last draft. Their first 4 guys they took in the first 2 rounds are all really good contributing players. They lucked out. You always need luck in these drafts when you have a team. Whenever you have a great team, somebody makes a mistake, it falls in your lap. Hello, Aiden Hutchinson. And a whole bunch of other moves. Amar St. Brown, they got him like the 4th round. He's like a top 20 wide receiver. Laporta was in the 2nd round. A lot of other things. They upgraded the running back position with David Montgomery, who's just a better player than Jamal Williams. You know, they have 3 first-round picks in the O-line. And they're both tackles and the center. So, and they have players everywhere. I mean, Jacobs last night with the 2 interceptions. They signed him off the street like 2 years ago. And it's Dan. And it's also the owner. The owner, Sheila, is great. She's around the team all the time. Sheila Hemp, the owner. Yeah. And
it's with FedEx or
Brad, the general manager, is incredible. He's done a great job. Remember, people laughed at them when they took on Jared Goff. Jared Goff's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL now.
He still can make every throw at his age. It's amazing.
I'll tell you this right now. I might get some death threats and people aggravate about this. He's better than Matthew Stafford.
He still can make every throw at his age.
I would rather have Jared Goff at this point than Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is too reckless with the ball. I don't like guys that are turnover machines. I don't want Betty Crocker playing quarterback.
Right now, absolutely.
Hey, you want to see that I'm actually paying attention and tie a few things together here? So you talk about culture, coaches being in the right spot, COVID years, all the things that go with it. Rich Rod is at Jacksonville State. They're 5-0 now. He's got a 7th-year quarterback playing for him.
Oh wow!
And life is good.
That's like the Harris
and
kid.
This 7-year quarterback has been at JSU the whole time.
Yeah.
He got his 4, he got his red shirt, he got his COVID, and he got an injury hardship.
Offense. So there was a lot of stuff that went on here that people shouldn't be proud about in Michigan. Right. He's a good coach.
Exactly. So life's good in Jacksonville, Alabama for Rich Rod.
How much time do we have? I got to be ready for Christmas. No.
Yes.
And lastly, Sean Griffin wanted to know about the Patriots.
Try to be
Can
nice.
you break down them?
It was all him. Does that? It was all him. This. You know, Bill Belichick is a really, really good defensive coach. Okay, he might be a good head coach.
Oh, you're right.
He's
good
not
job.
Andy Reid,
That's
Bill
what we're going to call this.
Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Bill Walsh, Don Shula, any of these guys. You know why he's where he is? Well, for two people, really. Lawrence Taylor and Tom Brady, who are like 2 of the 5 best players in the history of the league. Tom leaves. Bill's lack of personnel in finding skilled players. Because remember, all these years, when these young skilled players would come and were bad, it was Tom's fault. But so Tom's gone. They have no young skill players, and when they do, it's N'Keal Harry. But literally, the Patriots had a pick in a draft that would literally, you could fall out of a plane and find wide receivers. And the Patriots draft a guy who can't play at all. Instead of Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, there's a million guys. If they drafted any of these guys instead of instead of N'Keal Harry, Tom probably stays with the Patriots. They make all these mistakes. They do all these things. They're drafting punters and kickers. They don't have offensive linemen. Mac Jones is getting killed. Mac Jones needs help because he's not overly physically talented. Hey, let me let you know a secret. If Tua didn't have an offensive line, he'd look bad too. There's very few players in the league that can survive without an offensive line. There's like Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow's done it, Josh Allen's running around for his life, but almost every quarterback needs significant help. One of the reasons why Tommy worked in Tampa was they had a good offensive line and they added to it and they drafted Wirfs. And then obviously Mike Evans and Godwin. But notice how they built the O-line, and then the skill guys followed. Leonard Fournette, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown before he lost his mind. Then we have the Jets, who let's bring in 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Sorry about the police cars going by. They're not coming to arrest me because I'm saying bad things about the Patriots. Yes. So Kraft sent them to get me. So the Jets, they signed the skill guy.
That came in at very perfect
Randall
timing.
Cobb, and let's put out geriatric Dwayne Brown at left tackle, and my man Becton, who is, his training day is McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King at right tackle. And of course, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. And now we've got the comedy show of Zach Wilson playing quarterback. I haven't seen any of you guys play football, but I'm pretty sure the four of us in this picture could show up Sunday night at the old Meadowlands, the new New York Stadium for the Giants and Jets, and do a better job than Zach Wilson did. He's so bad, Robert Saleh might grow his hair back. That's how bad he is. Literally, they're playing the Chiefs Sunday night on national television. Steve Spagnuolo, rumors he's running around the Chiefs facility nude. He's so excited he doesn't know what to do about this game this week. It's like bad organizations, bad culture, chasing things, chasing stars. My good friend, the great writer Ian O'Connor, said it best. The last time the Jets were in the Super Bowl, we hadn't landed on the moon yet. But to go back to the Patriots, it's personnel and players. It's almost always Jimmys and Joes or X's and O's. You can make good players great with Jimmys and Joes. You can't make bad players good with X's and O's. You can have players. And the Patriots don't have enough good players. It's Belichick's fault. He runs the Patriots. They're drafting kickers and punters when they don't have offensive linemen and tight ends. They're overpaying wide receivers. They foolishly drafted another quarterback in the fourth round who can barely play when they have Mac Jones. Instead of giving Mac Jones some help, they drafted a guy to piss him off. It's not. They're about a 500 team because they do have good assistant coaches in Bill O'Brien, Gerard Mayo, Troy Brown. Bill O'Brien's a really good coach, but they don't have any players.
Jay,
what?
You've just done your one thing, your two thing. And we can say Jets.
Jets, Jets.
We're going to, in the interest of time, we're
Jay,
rolling back.
You've just done your one thing, your two thing, and we can say Jets. I tackled them. But we're going to, in the interest of time, we're rolling back to Keith.
All right. All right. So, one thing we like to do going into the weekend
for college or NFL.
is normally we do three storylines, but we didn't want to cut Jay off because he's got so much good information here, and it's such a good story. So we're just going to do one storyline from each of us going into the weekend. So, Coach, pick one thing going into the weekend. Anything you want, anywhere in the world of sports, anything keeping you interested. So
you can go last, Jay, so you have time to think about it.
Always.
Always listen to Vanessa
So-
Williams.
That's why Titans came on Monday.
Don't think
You
you're
wanna go
really hurting
first?
the team.
Don't tell him
Yeah,
that.
Coach, why don't you go first?
Always. That's why Todd Anson came on Monday and you came on Friday. So don't tell him I said that.
I think we got a little technical difficulty with Coach Brian. Why don't you go first? One thing from the weekend you are looking forward to.
Nothing from the
There you
weekend.
go.
I have an announcement to make, though. We have fired Tony Montone as our IT department, and we have hired as coach, as they say, next person up. We've hired Matty Godfrey.
And
Bold
Maddie's National Honor Society probably would be the smartest one in the room when y'all are working together. So it will be a step in the right direction.
But
Can't rely on the
unfortunately, here's the
Ravens,
bad
Brian,
part
I'll
of that
tell you
news
that.
is Matty's got to go back after fall break. So we're going to have to hire Tony Montone from Baltimore to come back in. So, but just that's my only announcement. That's all I got.
All right, Coach, what do you got? Coach, what do you got?
Coach?
And I'm sorry I keep popping in and out. But we're talking about our one thing.
One thing you're looking forward to this weekend.
Will 6 SEC teams lose at home, which doesn't happen very often. But, home field advantage usually is a big deal in the SEC. But I've got in my pick 6 of them losing at home this weekend, which would be a pretty interesting development if it does happen.
Wow. All right, my one thing for the weekend is the Ryder Cup. It's one of my favorite times of year in golf. It's in Italy, so the time change is
I
brutal.
can mute him if you want.
So
Go ahead, Keith.
I went to bed. I went to bed last night. I got the Dodgy app. I get Sky Sports from England. Turned that on the TV. So every time I got up to get a glass of water or whatever in the middle of the night, I'd have the golf already on. Had the timer set on the coffee maker for about 3:15. Got up. It's been nothing but golf all day. And the USA got boat raced this morning. The early matches, they lost all 4. The second set of matches, they tied 3 and then got smoked in the third one. So we're down 5 points going into Saturday. It'll be alternate shot in the morning and then 4-ball in the afternoon.
After
so
last week.
USA needs to make up points or this could get ugly quick.
Jay,
what
you're
you
up.
got?
In lesser extent, see how Dion handles getting blown out. He's done a phenomenal job with that team. See how they come back from getting their asses kicked.
I'm with you on that one.
That's
College
fair.
game day 2 weeks in a row, a lot of pressure.
Oh, okay. You probably own a percentage when you do that.
Hold on. I'm a little slow.
Believe it or not, you guys
Anytime
would
mention
really
Colorado
like Coach
prime
Brown. He's a
time,
good
the
guy.
shades come on. We
Awesome
don't
guy.
keep them on long, but we do
Awesome
put them on.
And his son is a Brady Brand guy.
Probably so.
We know a couple of lawyers. I've met him.
Treated me great.
A few years ago. Great guy.
Okay,
Hey,
so
also,
I got a scenario
Jay
for you.
Duke and
I got a scenario for him. Mike Elko.
now Jay
is gonna
Duke
be a
and
hot
Notre
coach
Dame
in-
again. Duke's
He
quarterback
can
is
take
from
Mr.
Fairhope,
Riley
the
with him
community
as
I
a
live in.
package deal and go
And
somewhere.
so the folks around here are pretty excited about
Yeah.
tomorrow. And
He had
We'll see.
Scholarship offer. And don't train David Morris at quarterback country, who's a friend of our show.
I know David very well. There you go. Yes.
There we go.
I don't think he's gone, but he had one scholarship offer, and he trained under David Morris at quarterback country, who's a friend of our show. It was also Eli's backup at Ole Miss. So,
All right. Well, we'll get into the looking forward to the games. So, Jay, you'll go at the end and jump into any college football things you want to right now. I'm going to cover what I call covering the bigs, the Big 10 and the Big 12. So, we're back into deep conference play in the Big 10. There's not a lot of good matchups. Michigan has to go on the road to Nebraska. That's not going to be much of a game. I don't think Nebraska could stop anything. So Michigan's just,
Yes.
I mean, Michigan's favored by 17 in the line, the over-under is at 39. So they're, it's going to be Michigan score 50 on their own there. The one thing I do, and that's an underrated thing, Maryland has a chance to go 5-0 on the season, and they are heavily favored against Indiana. And, as another Tagovailoa behind center there. So if Maryland wins, keep it out. See if they'll get any respect from the voters. And Michigan State can go from worse to absolutely even worse because they have to travel to Iowa, and Iowa is heavily favored by more points than they usually score in a game. So at 12.5.
I hope they get to 25 or more.
So then moving into the Big 12, the one thing I'm going to keep my eye on here is the currently Big 12 team of Texas and Kansas. Kansas is going into Austin, but looking ahead, Texas has the Red River rivalry next weekend. Ooh, say that fast. Anyway, so Oklahoma coming up next weekend, Kansas coming in. Normally you wouldn't think much about that, but Rock Chalk Jayhawk stays undefeated currently going into Texas. So Texas still heavily favored, but they were heavily favored against a Wyoming team that came and gave them everything they could until they just ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. So looking at that, Oklahoma's got Iowa State on the schedule this week, so they may look ahead a little bit, and they're hosting them. So, but that's about what I got. We got a Friday night showdown of Cincinnati and BYU in the Big 12. So, yeah, that's about it. So we'll move right on, and we will head into the ACC and Pac-12. So,
Okay.
Ryan, take it over.
I want to thank Megan from the Hampton Inn out at Providence Park and John Gurney for setting me up. However, I do not know how to work their TV, so I'm currently watching Princeton Columbia. Princeton just actually stopped them on the 5 in a 3-0 game. But we've got two big ones on tonight. We've got Louisville, NC State, and we've got Utah versus Oregon State. Utah, if you remember, was my pick to win the Pac-12 despite all the injuries. And then Jay told me this information before you guys topped on that now I don't feel so good about Utah, so I'm going to have to reevaluate. Clemson, Syracuse, Virginia, BC, Bowling Green, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Virginia Tech. And then you've got UCLA and Colorado. I talked to a friend of mine that works for MGM Grand Sportsbook. 97% of the money is on Colorado.
Business, Brian. That's there's this
Now,
thing about.
But as my friend Lee Corsica said, not so fast, my friend. 96% of the money was on Colorado last week. The casinos aren't nice because they like to hand out money. So, I think Trump had one up in New Jersey, but that's another story in another podcast. Oregon Stanford might be an interesting game, and here's my upset this week. And Jay and I have a friend, Jed Fish, who's at Arizona.
Brian, you know who?
They've got Washington
Jed's
coming into town into the desert, and that's. I don't know if Tim Brando has that game with Spencer Tillman, but I'll find out.
You know who that is?
Don't be surprised if Arizona gives Washington a pretty good game because they've got a lot of talent.
Jimmy Doherty, I believe, is still out there, is he not?
I believe so.
I do not.
Coach, good person too, along with Jed.
The old wide receiver coach from Michigan.
Jimmy Doherty.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, and Jimmy Doherty, I believe, is still out there, is he not? Good coach. Good person, too. Along with Jed. Yep.
What the hell are you doing talking to me? You should be running like the Palace
anything
or
from the
something.
ACC?
30-7. Very, very good. And Jay, you'll notice that at this point in time, I'm the only person who actually picks the winners because I'm 30-7 on the year. Now, if I go in the tank,
it was all you. It was all you.
If I go in the tank,
Ravage in Biloxi is only 40 miles away, Coach.
If I go in the tank over the next couple of weeks, I'll start doing like they do and just talk about games. So I've got in the SEC, I've got Florida going into Lexington and winning. I've got Alabama. I've got Texas A&M going into Arkansas and winning, even with a backup quarterback. Georgia going in and really getting after Auburn. Mizzou beating Vandy. We've laughed about. I will never pick Vandy to win again. I don't care if they're playing Pearl Con High School. LSU
Coach,
goes
let me
into
ask you a question.
Oxford and beats Ole
Coach,
Miss.
let me ask you a question.
And Alabama goes into Starkville, beats
You're a
Mississippi
hardcore
State.
SEC
Tennessee
guy.
will
Who's the
win at
second
home
best
against
team in the
South
SEC?
Carolina.
I'm assuming even
And
Georgia's
South
number one.
Alabama, I
Who's the
covered
second
them.
best team in the SEC?
James Madison will beat South Alabama tomorrow.
Oh, no.
So,
You're wrong there. There's where your record's wrong.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you didn't see my friend and his family, Brian Kelly. No, his family.
I would probably still go with Alabama.
He's about as southern as I am.
At this time.
Kelly on another podcast in the future, I think.
You think I have some bad things to say about Belichick? Bring on Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
The Matt LaFleur, Robert Saleh story from when they coached for him.
Let's let Keith and you discuss Brian Kelly on another podcast in the future. I think that would be something for.
Paktakana Yado Bahabad Yad.
The man literally went on. They said that. Look, I like the fact that when they asked him about the little fake accent, he said, "I don't have an accent. I'm from Boston."
Yeah, Billy and I are from the same hometown. Have a lot of mutual friends. Played on a lot of the same programs. He's older than I am.
Jay, before we go, can you tell about Bill O'Brien?
I'm probably smarter.
Because he was an Alabama guy.
Really good
now
coach.
he's up in New England.
Things. Look at how bad the Texans have gone since he left. And they would have won the national championship the year where Michie and Jamison Williams got hurt. Because remember, they beat that Georgia team. And how you beat the Georgia team is the wide receiver position. You gotta hit explosive plays the way their scheme is, and they had that set up. And just a shame that those two kids got hurt in the two separate games.
And lastly, I'm looking over my notes, and this is something I totally missed whenever I introduced you. I got to know a special athlete, and his name's Michael Phelps.
Oh, God.
And I'll tell you what Michael Phelps told me whenever I told him that I knew Jay.
And lastly, I'm looking over my notes, and this is something I totally missed whenever I introduced you. I got to know a special athlete, and his name's Michael Phelps. And I'll tell you what Michael Phelps told me whenever I told him that I knew Jay the Beavs Flannelly. He told me Jay Flannery was a great athlete,
with a couple guys
and hockey, football, and injuries derailed his career. When Michael Phelps says that about somebody, I mean, I'll tell you, and I told you that story. And
when somebody of that level
I'm sorry I missed it at the beginning.
says that, it makes you feel good. I appreciate him. I mean, he's arguably the greatest athlete in the history of the world. Olympian at least. It means a lot. But I give Michael a hard time about the Ravens thing.
Right.
But he's a great guy, and I'm glad he's doing well. We both also have had struggle. Yeah, we both had trouble with depression and mental health stuff. So I'm glad he's doing well. I'm doing great and better. So he's a good dude, and I mean, an historic Olympian, and the fact that he said something like that. Was he drinking at the time? No, I'm kidding.
He's also a Michigan man.
Good guy. Great guy.
It was pregame, and
I know.
I'll tell you, Michael Phelps and I, we root for the right teams, the Michigan Wolverines and the Baltimore Ravens.
Wonderful.
You're batting .500. You're better than Ted Williams.
No, it was pregame, and but I'll tell you, Michael Phelps and I, we root for the right teams, the Michigan Wolverines and the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, mine's.
I mean, did you see the guy on the Packers jump?
Nobody ever accused me of being better than Ted Williams. I'll tell you, I might put that on my Twitter account. So. But
okay,
we're working on it.
I was talking about this earlier. Somebody's going to get killed on that play. Because what's going to happen is somebody's going to do the LeVar Arrington.
Before
and
we
the quarterback's either going to get taken off.
Play the Eagles. We're going to work on that push.
People don't understand this. The four guys in this room understand this. There are people who work in football, literally, and Brian and Coach and Keith can all back me on this, who do nothing but will watch that play 10,000 times a day to figure it out, how to defend and attack it. And you're gonna have a guy hurdling or either going low or high on that, and somebody's going to get hurt really bad. And that's, this is the Player Safety League. The Player Safety League gives us Thursday night football, by the way, which is stupid.
We actually had
Sure.
Yeah.
we had the first Thursday night game that was entertaining last night in about a year and a half.
Yeah. And it was entertaining because the Lions were in cruise control the entire second half. It was
It could
just
very well be the
We
defense
actually had
that knows early. I mean, exactly.
We actually had the first Thursday night game that was entertaining
of course.
last night.
But when was the last time? I'm trying to think.
About a year
when was
and
the
a
last
half.
time a quarterback I heard a quarterback sneak?
So
Tommy
Everybody-
was great at it.
Yeah.
He runs about as good as an elephant.
And we're all guilty of this. Everybody wants you to run a quarterback sneak on fourth and a foot into your quarterback.
That's a huge part of it. Thank you.
I always wanted to
Man,
see Tom
and-
Brady and Joe Flacco race. I never got.
Joe Flacco and Flacco would beat Tom in a race. It's the only thing Flacco would beat Tom in.
And knowing how to fall has a lot to do with it too.
I always wanted to see Tom.
That's why I'm here, Keith. I'm
I
sorry.
always wanted to see Tom Brady and Joe Flacco race. I never got my wish. So
So hey Keith, I know you've totally lost control of this episode. Where are we now, buddy?
Oh, no, this has been great content. No, I was going to say we're going right into NFL talk, and I think Jay just hit a couple great points that I think we were probably going to bring up anyway. Brian, Coach, you got anything you want to add going into the NFL weekend?
NFL wise, y'all know that I'm not as big a studier of the NFL as y'all are. But
Coach,
the fact that we did our top five the other day,
It's not Denver.
and I went with 4, but 3 of my 4 are the top 3 rushing teams in the NFL. They run the football. Now, you have to remember that Miami ran for 350 yards against Denver, which sort of skews that a little bit. But I cannot remember anybody other than an academy running for 350 yards in a game since Barry Switzer was at Oklahoma. I mean, that's right. Jamel Holloway, and let's hang a half 100 on them, boys. I mean, back in the day, amazing.
What was the
very
most
much
games
so.
your
But
dad
here's
won?
another
Your
Mike
uncle,
Godfrey
excuse me,
story.
your
In the
uncle won in
Boz, Brian
Kansas.
Bosworth's book, he said his worst loss
What's
was
the
to
most games he
Kansas,
won in
and
the
Mike
season, like 5 or
Godfrey and
6?
Mike Norseth was the quarterback.
7.
And
Oh
that's
my
what
God,
got
that's
Mike
unbelievable.
probably after he beat USC, then he beat Oklahoma, got him the Pittsburgh job. So fun fact. I'm deferring my NFL mid.
So he beat 2 number 2.
Uncle. How many? 7.
No. Nolan Cromwell was there. No, first of all, Nolan Cromwell was a quarterback.
1 year, and
quarterback
then the
in
next
college.
year he beat Brian Bosworth
Yep,
in
he's
Oklahoma
quarterback.
when they were ranked number 2. So he beat 2 number 2.
And excuse me for my years here. Was
I've
that
got-
Nolan
I've
Cromwell?
got 2 NFL.
years when Nolan Cromwell was the wishbone quarterback. Right, he was a quarterback that wore number 20 something.
No, I don't do polls.
I'm going to defer.
Mike, wasn't he?
Polls are useless.
Yeah.
Settle things
Okay.
on the
I'm going to
field. Who
defer.
cares? I was the idiot who thought Ryan Leaf was better.
Well,
than
I'm going to
Peyton
defer.
Manning. Polls are useless.
Let's start with this. We did top 5 college football, and then we did a
Okay,
top
so
5
this
in
is what
the
I'm gonna
NFL.
talk
Jay,
about.
are you comfortable
2
doing
things.
those or no?
The impact on COVID
Okay.
on the
Jim Harbaugh did a
2021
great report about
quarterback
rankings. And,
Look up the
Yeah.
flops led by the clown on the Jets and Trey Lance.
Brian
is
has given
Trey
up
Lance
his
didn't get
thing
to play
to
a
you,
lot.
which means you get to do
There's all
too.
these flops
So,
from the 21
yeah.
draft class. Justin Fields is another one. But the difference between a really good organization, my business partner Kathy's 49ers, and the Jets, really bad organization. Think about, they had Trey Lance, they had Zach Wilson. They're probably going to move on from both guys, right? What did the 49ers do? They brought in consolation prize and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had a good offseason, came in and won. What did the Jets do to bring in the backup Aaron Rodgers? They didn't do anything. They just had Zach Wilson. Well, how's that working out for them? The Lions, by the way, signed Teddy Bridgewater. You think the Jets would like to have Teddy Bridgewater now?
There were three backups
Yep.
after Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And it was the one after.
Yep.
And the Jets just sat there.
I'm going to say this out loud, kids. Write this down. Uncle Jay is here to save the day. Fail to prepare to fail. I know Coach likes that.
There were three backups signed after Aaron Rodgers, and it was a month after. And the Jets just sat there.
Look at the 49ers last year. The 49ers got to the NFC Championship game with the last pick in the
Brian
draft.
may write it on the whiteboard.
Playing quarterback.
It may make the whiteboard.
Coach,
Jimmy Garoppolo and his hair
Coach,
gel.
I got here. I was drawing up plays for people at the hotel.
Trey Lance started. He got hurt. Jimmy came in. He did what he did. He gets hurt.
It's a good square for the center there.
He had three good quarterbacks.
Yeah, we're past our hour mark, but I'd love to invite you back to a future episode if you're willing.
It was all you. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll come back. Yes, without question.
Well, Jay, we're past our hour mark, but
yeah,
I'd love to invite you back to a future episode if you're willing.
So I know about Denver and Chicago. What's the other one?
Hey, Jay, before we wrap up, I want to ask you one quick question. You got two games that are featuring four teams that have not won yet. What two teams are still winless on Monday?
Okay, I'm going to go with the team that I think has the better quarterback in both games. I'm going to go with the Bears
the other
and the
one,
Vikings.
you've got the Vikings are playing. Hang on a second, I got it right here. There we go. I got my notes.
I'll be glad to come back. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Coach. By the way, you guys want to try to find me? I'm on social media. Jay Flannery 19 is my Twitter.
All right.
Beavs World
so
is my
NFC
website.
North gets out of the hole. All right. Well, everyone, Jay, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast. Like I said, we could all probably just talk and tell stories forever. We're going to do it again.
Easy. The
We're going to do it again.
That's my Twitter.
And I want to thank everyone out there.
You can figure out the number 19 might be the number I wore going up. That's and it's Jay Flannery on Facebook. I'm around.
Slow down for our Southern friends, and then say your Facebook
I'm always
as well.
doing podcasts on there about the NFL usually. But I'm an easy guy to find. Unlike Tom, minimum security for Jay. Minimum security, insecurity for Jay. There you go.
Perfect. We'll share all that as well from our.
Excellent.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I want to. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for following along with us today. And again, we will have Jay back on here as the season progresses because there's going to be a lot more to talk about. And if you could all please remember to follow, like, subscribe to us, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place. And if you got questions for us, comment on our social media or shoot us an email. And also, if you would like your business or your events mentioned on our show, hit us at the email as well. And that email is unblockedpod@gmail.com. And Brian's got one more thing, and we'll wrap it up.
Osteo Strong Hillcrest. Go see them. If you've got a sore shoulder or frozen shoulder, I'm getting there. And lastly, I'm trying to think of my last thought.
Don't think, son, you're hurting the team.
Oh, no. We've got a special announcement coming on Monday night.
There's only a couple places that
it's going to blow
the South, relatively.
In the South. We've got our first college campus, Unblocked Podcast Network.
Awesome. So, can't wait to see it.
Right.
Might want to tune in for where that is, Jay.
Probably someplace in Florida.
It's in the South.
Family.
Well, the South,
family-
relatively.
Well, let's
a lot of
wait-
people
let's-
from
Nothing-
Andover,
none of the bad things can
Massachusetts,
happen to him.
retired to the state. So.
let's wait and see what the announcement is. Let's not spoil
Yes,
it.
Jay, we have no idea what he's talking about. He
guys.
doesn't tell us
Good night.
anything. Yeah. So, yeah.
Or maybe Brian Kelly. Maybe we're going with the family. Family.
Yeah.
So much for the surprise, everyone. Well, stay
Hey,
tuned, and
I
we
got
will
a
see
date.
you.
I got a date with my wife, guys. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Thank
Brian,
you, guys.
Take us home, baby. Thank you all for tuning in.
All right.